What exactly is love? We watch movies about love and listen to songs about love. We long for it and dream of it, yet why do we so often fail miserably in it? Why do intimate relationships that start with immense hope so often end in disappointment and apathy? We always assume love is a feeling, a moment of electric sparks, a lucky falling in love. But what if this idea is fundamentally wrong? Today, we will dive deep into a classic book that has an average rating of 8.8 on Douban, China's leading book and film review platform, and has completely revolutionized countless people's views on love, The Art of Loving. Since its publication, this book has sold over 10 million copies worldwide and been translated into 34 languages. Its author, Erich Fromm, was a renowned psychologist and philosopher who had profound insights into human alienation and loneliness in modern society. The core argument of The Art of Loving challenges the common sense of all of us. From the very beginning, it tells us, love is not a feeling, but an art. Just like learning music, painting, or medicine, it requires theoretical knowledge, and more importantly, deliberate practice. Next, let's delve into Fromm's world of thought together. We will explore, why is the modern person's ability to love declining? What do the true elements of love, care, responsibility, respect, and understanding really mean? And most importantly, how exactly can we practice to master this art that shapes our lifelong happiness? If you are tired of repeatedly trial and error in love, this video will completely reshape your understanding of love. Now that we have accepted the transformative premise that love is an art, the first thing we need to do before learning this art is to clear away the deep-rooted misconceptions about love in our minds. Just like clearing a weed-choked piece of land by pulling out the weeds first. Fromm believed that the reason we keep failing in love is that we start from the wrong premise. We have misoriented ourselves on the map of love. He identified 3 fundamental mistakes we most often make. Mistakes that keep us lost on the path of love. The first and most common misconception is this: most of us see the problem of love as how to be loved, rather than how to love. This might sound a bit confusing, so let's break it down. Think about it. When we long for love, what do we usually do? We might hit the gym, work hard, learn to dress well, develop interesting hobbies, make our conversations more witty, or soften our personalities. What's the logic behind all these efforts? It's to make ourselves more worthy of being loved, isn't it? We find ourselves thinking, how can I become more attractive? How can I win that person's heart? You see, that's the core of the problem. We pour all our energy into the project of shaping ourselves, as if we were a product that needs constant packaging upgrades and performance improvements, also that we can be picked by an ideal customer on the shelf of love. We care about whether we can be loved, not whether we have the ability to love others. It's like someone who wants to become a great singer, but spends all their time designing glamorous stage costumes and figuring out how to attract fans. Instead of practicing vocalization or learning music theory every day, they focus not on the art of singing itself, but on how to get applause. Isn't that absurd? Yet when it comes to love, most of us are exactly that singer, obsessed with appearances but never practicing our vocals. We treat love as a passive acceptance, a trophy earned through our own charm, while ignoring that love is first and foremost an active ability, a force that flows from the depths of our hearts. This is our first mistake. We have completely misplaced our focus. Next, let's look at the second misconception that leads us astray. We see the problem of love as a matter of finding the right object, not a matter of cultivating the right ability. What does this mean? We always think that love itself is simple. Who doesn't know how to love? The hard part is finding the right person, the object worthy of our love. As a result, our lives often become a long journey of searching. We scroll through dating apps, attend various parties, and carry a long checklist in our minds filled with requirements for a future partner. Height, education, income, personality, hobbies. We believe that as long as we can follow the map to find that perfectly matched love object, love will naturally happen, and all our problems will be solved. Fromm pointed out sharply that this is another huge illusion. It's like someone who wants to paint but refuses to learn sketching, color theory, or composition. Instead, they complain every day, "It's not that I can't paint. I just haven't found a landscape worth painting." They think that as long as they find the perfect subject, they will automatically become a great painter. Does that sound ridiculous? Yet when it comes to love, this is exactly what we think. From argued that this mindset is a product of our consumer age. Our entire culture is built on buying and exchanging. So we view love through marketplace glasses. We size up potential partners as if we were evaluating a product. We unconsciously calculate their social exchange value, their family background, their career potential, their physical attractiveness. At the same time, we assess our own value to see if we are worthy of them in this transaction, and if we can get a good deal. When two people decide that, after considering all available products on the market, each other is the best option they can find, they fall in love. You see, under this logic, love is no longer the collision and fusion of two souls, but a cold exchange of personality packages. What we care about is not how to improve our ability to love, but how to find the optimal object. This is our second fatal mistake. Now, after the first two, let's turn to the third misconception, the one that resonates with us most. We often confuse the momentary passion of falling in love with the stable state of enduring love. Almost everyone has experienced that feeling of falling in love. Two strangers suddenly feel that the wall between them has disappeared. They can talk all night long, feeling completely understood and accepted. That moment is one of the most exciting and happy experiences in life. We often take this intense feeling as proof of true love, assuming that the intensity of the feeling equals the depth of love. But from pours cold water on this idea. He tells us that this sudden, miraculous sense of intimacy is inherently temporary. As two strangers gradually become familiar with each other, as the sense of mystery fades, and as friction and boredom in daily life begin to emerge, that initial, explosive passion will inevitably fade away. At this point, many people feel disappointed. They think, the feeling is gone, there's no love between us anymore. And then they may choose to break up, looking for the next stranger who can give them that passionate experience. This traps them in a cycle of constantly falling in love and constantly being disappointed. Here, From offers a profound insight. That intoxicating infatuation, that wild passion, often does not prove the greatness of love. It only proves how lonely those people were before. It is precisely because of long-term loneliness that the sudden collapse of that wall feels so shocking and precious. Thus, taking this temporary passion as the entirety of love is our third mistake. It makes us mistake love for a volcanic eruption, failing to realize that love should be more like a star, continuously shining and radiating warmth. To summarize, the reason we suffer and feel lost in love is that we are trapped by these three major misconceptions. We strive to be loved instead of learning to love. We desperately search for a love object instead of improving our ability to love. We are obsessed with the moment of falling in love, but do not know how to sustain enduring love. When we realize that all these are mistakes, we stand at a brand new starting point. From tells us that the only way out is to completely reverse our mindset. We must acknowledge that love is not a stroke of luck we wait for, but an art we need to take the initiative to learn, just like learning medicine, carpentry, or music. And learning any art requires two basic steps. First, mastering the theory, and second, putting it into practice. So from now on, let go of all your unrealistic fantasies about love. Treat yourself as a humble apprentice and get ready to learn this most important art, one that shapes your lifelong happiness, from scratch. In the next part, we will officially dive into the theoretical study of love, exploring a fundamental question. Why do human beings need love so desperately? In the previous part, we have completely cleared away the three major misconceptions about love in our minds. Now we stand at a brand new starting point, ready to learn this art like an apprentice. But before we study specific skills and theories, we must first answer a more fundamental and profound question. Why do human beings need love so desperately? What does love really mean to us? Is it merely an extra emotional experience that adds icing to the cake? Or is it a necessity for our survival, like air and water? To answer this question, Fromm takes us on an intellectual journey to trace the roots back to the very origin of human existence. He asks us to imagine, in the distant past, when humans were not yet fully human, but merely a species of animal, what was their state of being? They were completely integrated with nature, acting on instinct, just as naturally as trees grow and rivers flow. They never felt lonely, for they were part of the world, and the world was part of them. It was an Eden free from anxiety and fear, yet also devoid of a sense of self. Then, at a certain moment in evolution, a miracle occurred. Humans developed reason, imagination, and self-awareness. We suddenly awoke. We realized, that I am an independent individual, different from the plants, animals, and even other people around me. This moment of awakening marked the glorious beginning of humanity, but it also became the source of all our suffering. For the instant we became aware of our selfhood, we were forever expelled from that Eden where we once lived in harmony with nature. We became orphans of the universe. We gained wisdom beyond that of animals, yet in doing so, we lost the inherent sense of belonging that animals possess. We are the only species that understands its own mortality, knows that life is fleeting, and recognizes how tiny and powerless we are in the face of the vast cosmos. This sense of separation from the world, from others, and from nature is like an invisible prison, confining each of us tightly within our own bodies and consciousness. This bottomless loneliness is the ultimate source of all human fear, anxiety, and unease. It hums like a background noise at every moment of our lives. Since the day humans came into existence, we have been confronted with an eternal core question, one that spans all eras and cultures. Whether it was ancient cave dwellers or us today, we spend our entire lives trying to answer it. How can we overcome this sense of separation? How can we break free from the prison of loneliness, reconnect with the external world, and achieve unity? Fromm tells us that throughout human history, we have tried countless ways to escape this prison. Unfortunately, most of these escape plans only address the symptoms, not the root cause, and some even amount to drinking poison to quench thirst. The first failed approach is orgiastic revelry. This may sound distant, like some mysterious ritual of ancient tribes, but in reality, it happens all around us. We might even be practicing it ourselves. Think of all-night weekend parties and heavy drinking. Amid deafening music and alcohol-induced numbness, we temporarily forget who we are and the passage of time. In those moments, we seem to merge with the crowd, and loneliness fades away. Or consider mindlessly scrolling through short videos, binge-watching TV shows, or playing video games. Immersing ourselves in the sensory stimulation of the virtual world, filling our minds so completely that there is no room left to feel the emptiness inside. What do these methods have in common? They are all intense and stimulating, allowing you to briefly experience the pleasure of the world disappearing, and I disappearing with it. But their fatal flaw is that their effects are extremely short-lived. After the revelry comes doubled emptiness. When the alcohol wears off, deeper loss sets in, and when the screen goes dark, loneliness immediately strikes back, even harder than before. You are then forced to seek more frequent and intense stimulation, eventually trapped in a vicious cycle. It is like trying to quench thirst by drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become, and in the end, you will only die of dehydration. If orgiastic indulgence is a violent form of escape, the second failed approach is a gentle form of self-anesthesia, blind conformity. This method is more common and more hidden. Its logic is simple. If I think, dress, and act like everyone else, if I perfectly fit into a group, I won't feel lonely anymore, right? So we strive to be sociable. We chase trends, afraid of falling behind. We dare not express opinions that differ from the majority, afraid of being isolated. We join various circles and clubs, label ourselves in countless ways, and try to escape the loneliness of I by becoming part of we. Fromm uses a vivid metaphor. Modern society needs human atoms, people who are indistinguishable from one another, who can fit together without friction to serve a massive social machine. Everyone feels free and independent, but in reality, their thoughts, emotions, and tastes are standardized and pre-programmed. They read the same books, watch the same movies, and have the same emotional reactions. The individuality we think we have is often no more than embroidering our initials on a suitcase. A trivial difference that means nothing. What is the cost of this approach? You give up your true individuality and sacrifice your unique life experience in exchange for a false sense of security. It's true that you may feel less lonely, but you also cease to be you. You become a standardized, replaceable part. This kind of unity is not true connection, but mere conformity. It can temporarily ease our fear of loneliness, but because it is so dull and rigid, it can never satisfy the deep longing in our souls for genuine connection. Beyond these two, there is a third escape plan that sounds more sophisticated: creative work. Whether it's artists, craftsmen, programmers, or scientists, when they immerse themselves in their work, they too can experience a sense of unity. A carpenter unites with their wood, a painter with their canvas, a programmer with their code. In the process of creation, humans achieve harmony with the material world they act upon, and loneliness is transcended in that moment. This approach is undoubtedly positive and healthy, but points out that it also has a limitation. It achieves unity between humans and things, not unity between humans and humans. Moreover, in the highly specialized assembly lines of modern society, most people's work has lost this creative quality. We are just cogs in a huge bureaucratic system. We do not feel that we are creating anything. We are merely completing assigned tasks. So for most people, work itself cannot be the answer to overcoming loneliness. After talking about so many failed plans, are we doomed to be trapped in this prison of loneliness until we die? Of course not. Tells us that beyond all these failed attempts, there exists a single, true, and ultimate answer: mature love. Love is humanity's final answer to the problem of existence. It is not fleeting revelry, blind conformity, or mere creation. Mature love is achieving unity with another person while preserving the integrity and independence of our own self. This may sound like a paradox, but says this is precisely the miracle of love. In love, two lives become one, yet they remain two separate lives. This is the true escape from prison. It does not make you forget the prison's existence by numbing yourself, nor does it make you pretend the prison doesn't exist by becoming like everyone else. Instead, two people join hands and transform the prison into a home together. Now we understand. Love is by no means an optional luxury for us. It is our only weapon against existential loneliness, the only way to give meaning to our short, accidental lives. Without love, humanity could not survive even a single day. Understanding this lays the most solid foundation for learning the art of love. For we know that we learn to love not for worldly success or to satisfy vanity, but to answer the most fundamental question of our lives, to achieve a form of self-salvation. So what exactly constitutes this love that can save us? What is its specific recipe? This is what we will explore in depth in the next section, uncovering the 4 core elements of true love. In the previous section, we discussed a profound topic. Humans have tried every trick in the book to escape the prison of loneliness, only to discover that the only way out is mature love. Upon hearing this, you must be wondering, the term mature love sounds lofty and abstract. What exactly is it? How is it different from the I love you we say in everyday life? Don't worry, this is the core question we will answer in this section. Fromm was not a philosopher who enjoyed playing with vague concepts. He was extremely practical. He took the seemingly abstract, spiritual chicken soup of love and broke it down into a clear, easy-to-understand recipe that anyone can follow. Before revealing this recipe, we must first understand a transformative premise: the initiative of love, which is giving. When we hear the words give or give of oneself, what is our subconscious reaction? For many of us, it means sacrifice, loss. If I give to you, I will have less, right? We always think that love is about finding someone who can give us a sense of security and happiness. We see love as a form of taking or a fair exchange. But Fromm tells us that this mindset is only held by those who are not yet mature in their personalities. For a truly creative person with a rich inner life, giving is precisely the highest expression of strength and vitality. How to understand this? Think about it. What kind of people are most willing to give? Those who are wealthy. But the wealth from speaks of is not about how much money you have in your bank account. It is about how abundant the vitality in your heart is. When a teacher shares knowledge with students without reservation, they do not feel emptied. Instead, they feel the abundance and vitality of their own knowledge. When a humorous person tells jokes to others and sees them laugh heartily, they experience the ability to create joy. In the moment of giving, we most deeply feel our own existence, that we are alive, abundant, and valuable. Thus, when Fromm says, giving brings more joy than receiving, it is not because giving is a sacrifice, but precisely because the act of giving itself embodies our vitality. Of course, in love, the most important form of giving is not money or gifts, but sharing the most precious and vital parts of your inner self with the other person. What are these parts? They are your joy, your interests, your understanding, your knowledge, your humor, and even your sorrows. By sharing all of these, you enrich the other person's life, and at the same time enhance your own sense of being alive. More miraculously, your giving awakens the other person's capacity to give, turning them into a giver too, so that vitality flows between you. After understanding that giving is the initiative and core of love, let us now look at this recipe for love. Fromm argues that all genuine love contains 4 indispensable fundamental elements. You can use them to examine your relationships with others and see how much true gold your love contains. The first element is care. This is the most basic and easiest to understand. Fromm gives a simple example. If a woman tells you she loves flowers, but you find she always forgets to water them, you will certainly not believe her words. Similarly, if a mother says she loves her child but is indifferent to the child's food, clothing, and health, her love must be empty and false. Love, first and foremost, is an active concern for the life and growth of the person or thing we love. It is not an emotion spoken of casually, but a tangible action. If you love someone, you will involuntarily care about them. Whether they eat well, sleep soundly, work smoothly, or feel happy. This care is the most direct expression of love. Without this active concern, love becomes like water without a source or a tree without roots. The second element is responsibility. At the mention of responsibility, many people feel pressured, seeing it as a heavy obligation they have no choice but to fulfill. But Fromm tells us this is another misunderstanding of the word responsibility. The responsibility he refers to is not a task imposed on you from the outside, but a completely voluntary act. It means you are ready and capable of responding to the needs of another life, needs that the other person may explicitly express, or that you perceive through care and understanding. A loving person has an inner voice that says, "The lives of those important to me are not just their own business, they are connected to me. I am responsible for them, just as I am responsible for myself." In a mother's love, this responsibility is mainly reflected in caring for the child's healthy growth. In adult love, it is more reflected in caring for and responding to the other person's spiritual needs. It means, when the other person needs you, you will be there. This sense of responsibility makes love solid and reliable. However, if love only consists of care and responsibility, it can easily move toward another extreme, control and possession. Therefore, it must be balanced by a third element, respect. The respect Fromm talks about is not the sense of distance we usually associate with fear or awe. Instead, he returns to the word's original meaning. In Latin, respect literally means to look at, the ability to see a person as they truly are, to recognize their unique individuality and true nature. Respect thus means, I hope the person I love can grow and develop in their own way, for their own sake, not to serve me. This sentence is extremely important. How much of our so-called love is actually about controlling and changing the other person under the pretext of doing this for your own good? We want our partners to meet our expectations, and we want our children to fulfill the dreams we never achieved. But none of this is respect. True respect is a heartfelt acceptance of the other person as they are, an appreciation of their uniqueness, and support for them to become themselves, not the person I want them to be. To achieve this, there is a prerequisite. You must first be an independent and complete person. Only when you do not need to depend on anyone and do not want to control or exploit anyone can you truly give the other person the space and freedom to grow. As an old French song goes, "Love is the child of freedom. It can never be the product of control." Okay, with care, responsibility, and respect in place, we are missing only the fourth and deepest element: understanding. Without understanding as a foundation, your care and responsibility may be blind. What you give may not be what the other person truly needs. For example, you think they are cold and insist they put on more clothes, but what they actually feel is loneliness inside. The understanding from refers to is not a superficial, factual understanding, not just knowing what they like to eat or which movies they enjoy. Instead, it is a deeper insight that penetrates appearances and reaches the core. It is the ability to set aside your own interests and judgments, and truly see the world through the other person's eyes and feel their emotions. For instance, you see someone angry, that is only the surface. But if you take the time to understand them further, you may discover that beneath their anger lies deep fear and anxiety. You may see that they feel lonely or are tormented by guilt. When you can see this layer, the person in your eyes is no longer just an angry individual, but someone suffering. This kind of understanding is what brings genuine compassion and connection. From even believes that our desire to understand the depths of another person's soul and explore their secrets is one of the deepest impulses in human nature. And love is precisely the only way to satisfy this desire. Now, let us put these four ingredients together: care, responsibility, respect, and understanding. You will find that they are interdependent and indispensable. Without care, love is empty talk. Without responsibility, love is indulgent. Without respect, love is possessive. Without understanding, love is blind. These four elements together form the attitude that a mature person should have in a loving relationship. From transformed love from a vague, mysterious feeling that one can only encounter by luck into a clear set of behavioral guidelines that can be practiced through effort. This is the recipe for love he offers us. So where and how did we first learn this recipe? To answer this, we must trace back to the source of our lives and look at the first love in our lives, the most far-reaching one, the love between parents and children. This is what we will explore in the next section. In the previous section, we finally obtained that precious recipe for love. It is like getting a top chef's menu. We theoretically know what to do, but a new question arises. Who was our first cooking teacher in life? Where and how did we first learn this recipe for love? To answer this question, we must take a time travel back to the very beginning of each of our lives, to the source of love that shaped all our emotional patterns, our original family. We will explore the secrets hidden in the love between parents and children. From tells us that whether a person can ultimately develop the ability to love largely depends on the kind of love they experienced in the first few years of their life. In the world of love during our childhood, there are two most important and distinct roles: mother and father. They each represent two extremes of love and teach us two completely different lessons about love. First, let us look at the first kind of love we experience in life, maternal love, whose core trait is unconditionality. Imagine what the world is like for a baby in the days just after birth. The baby cannot distinguish between themselves and their mother. The mother is warmth, food, and a sense of security itself. The baby does not need to do anything, does not need to be well-behaved, does not need to be beautiful. They do not even know who they are, and yet they already receive all of their mother's love. Why? Simply because they are her child. This love is natural and requires no reasons or conditions for exchange. From says that maternal love is a blessing, a form of peace. You do not need to earn it, nor do you need to make any effort for it. It is like sunlight and air, nourishing your fragile life unconditionally. This unconditional affirmation gives us our first and most important sense of existential security. It plants a seed in our hearts, making us believe, I am loved, and I am worthy of living. From uses a particularly beautiful metaphor. A good mother should give her child not only milk, but also honey. Milk symbolizes care and attention to the child's survival, a task most mothers can fulfill. But honey symbolizes the sweetness of life, the joy of living, and a sense of happiness. For a mother to give honey, she must first be a happy person who loves life. Through her eyes, her smile, and her hugs, she conveys a message to the child. My dear, look, how wonderful it is to live in this world. This blessing for life itself, passed on from mother to child, becomes the underlying foundation of a person's sense of happiness for a lifetime. Naturally, unconditional maternal love also has its flaws. Precisely because it does not require effort to obtain, its absence or inadequacy leaves us feeling profoundly empty and desperate, with a sense of helplessness. For we have no idea what to do to win it back. This is why many of us carry, deep in our hearts throughout our lives, an intense longing for this unconditional, all-encompassing maternal love. Now that we have discussed maternal love, let us turn to the other extreme of love, paternal love. If maternal love represents the earth, nature, and home, paternal love represents an entirely different world. A society shaped by ideas, rules, laws, and discipline. In the first few years of a child's life, their bond with their father is usually not as close as with their mother. The father's role is more like a guide, someone who shows the child the path to the world. And the core trait of paternal love is the exact opposite of maternal love. It is conditional. A father's love typically follows this principle. I love you because you meet my expectations, because you fulfill your duties, because you are like me. Notice the countless because here. This love must be earned through effort and good behavior. Obedience is the greatest virtue. Disobedience, the greatest sin. And the punishment for disobedience is the withdrawal of love. This may sound harsh, but tells us that conditional paternal love is equally crucial for a child's growth. Its positive significance lies in this. Because this love is conditional, I can earn it through my own efforts. It is within my control, shaped by my hard work. Imagine a child who, through their own efforts, following rules and completing tasks, receives approval and praise from their father for the first time. What rises in their heart? A newfound sense of confidence and strength. They realize, I can change my surroundings and gain what I want through my own actions. This is what paternal love teaches us. The principles of authority, responsibility, and how to survive and thrive in this complex society. Mothers give us a sense of security in life. Fathers give us guidance and courage to face life's hardships. Now, let us consider these two forms of love together. What does a healthy growth trajectory for a child look like? Fromm argues that in infancy, what we need most is the unconditional love and care of a mother. Around the age of 6, however, a child begins to need a father's authority and guidance. The mother's task is to fill the child with a sense of security in life. The father's task is to teach them how to bravely confront life's challenges. A good mother will eventually encourage her child to become independent and bear the pain of separation from them. A good father will eventually help his child build their own sense of authority, enabling them to break free from his. So, what is the true mark of a mature person? Fromm put forward a profoundly insightful view. A mature person ultimately reaches a state where they are both their own mother and their own father. What does this mean? It means they no longer seek an ideal mother or father figure from the outside world. Instead, they internalize both principles within themselves. They have a maternal conscience inside, a voice that says, no matter what mistakes you make, no matter how imperfect you are always worthy of love. Your existence alone has value. This inner mother grants them unconditional self-acceptance and fundamental self-confidence. At the same time, they also have a paternal conscience, a voice that says, if you do something wrong, you must take responsibility for the consequences. More importantly, you must change yourself and become better. Only then can you earn the respect and achievements you desire. This inner father gives them rational judgment and motivation for continuous growth. A truly mature person lives in balance between these two inner voices. If someone only has an inner father, they will be overly strict and harsh with themselves and others, lacking warmth. If someone only has an inner mother, they will easily indulge themselves, lose their sense of judgment, and fail to grow in the real world. Now we understand. The first and most important lesson in the art of love for each of us is learned within our families. From our mothers, we learn unconditional acceptance. From our fathers, we learn guided, principled direction. Our life's task is to ultimately integrate these two forms of love into our own personality, to become someone who can treat themselves with kindness and hold themselves to high standards, a complete and independent individual. Understanding this origin of love gives us a key to interpreting our own and others' emotional patterns. It also helps us better grasp why Fromm argued that love is not merely a matter between two people. It has a much broader spectrum. This is what we will explore in the next section. We have already gained an understanding of the essence of love and how it takes root and grows during our childhood. Now, let us expand our perspective further. For Fromm, love is never just about matters between two people. It is like a spectrum, with different colors and layers. If we only fix our gaze on one color, our understanding of love becomes far too narrow. For many of us, the first thing that comes to mind when we hear the word love is romantic love between men and women. But Fromm tells us this is like someone who only knows summer and cannot comprehend the fullness of the four seasons. To truly master the art of love, we must understand its 5 distinct forms. Interconnected and progressive, they form a complete world of love. The first form, and the foundation of all love, is brotherly love, or universal love. At the mention of this term, we may find it vague or even empty and grand, as if it is something only saints can achieve. But in reality, Fromm's concept of brotherly love is not distant at all. It does not require you to love every person in the world equally, an unrealistic goal. Instead, brotherly love refers to a fundamental sense of respect and connection toward humanity as a shared existence. It is the ability to look beyond surface labels, such as a person's status, wealth, or appearance, and recognize their inner core. A living being who, like you and me, experiences pain and joy, hope and fear. This may still sound abstract, so let us use an analogy. When you walk down the street and a stranger passes by, you may not even notice them. But if, in that moment, a thought flashes through your mind, this is also a unique life. They have their own story, their own family, their own troubles. As human beings, we are equal. That is the seed of brotherly love. The foundation of brotherly love lies in recognizing that we all share the same human nature. It demands that we look deep into a person's inner self, rather than stopping at the surface. If you only see the surface, you will always notice the differences and divisions between people. But if you can see the core, you will discover what we have in common, and realize we are all members of the human family. Without this foundation of brotherly love, other forms of love can hardly exist in a healthy way. Can we say that someone truly understands love if they are gentle and kind to their family but cold and cruel to their maid or a food delivery worker? Fromm would argue no, because their care for others is conditional and selective, not a genuine, stable part of their character. Thus, brotherly love is the soil in which all other love grows. With this soil in place, let us turn to the second form of love, the one we care about most, and the easiest to confuse us, romantic love or erotic love, the love we commonly refer to between men and women. Its most distinctive feature is this: it craves complete, unreserved union with another individual. This longing is so intense that it is inherently exclusive. Brotherly love is for all, while romantic love is directed toward one specific person. This is why romantic love is both beautiful and dangerous. Where does the danger lie? Fromm issued an extremely important warning. If romantic love is not rooted in brotherly love, it can easily degenerate into selfishness for two. What is selfishness for two? In real life, we often see couples who are deeply in love with each other but indifferent or even hostile to the outside world. They form a small alliance, treating the entire world as an imaginary enemy. Their little world contains only each other. They believe this standing against the world stance is proof of the greatness of their love. But Fromm argues this is not love at all. It is a symbiotic form of arrogance. Two lonely people clinging to each other, doubling their sense of loneliness. So, what constitutes healthy romantic love? From believe that true romantic love should be like this. Because I deeply love this one person, loving them teaches me to love all humanity, the world, and life itself more deeply. Your lover should be a window through which you see a broader world, not a wall that isolates you from it. If a relationship makes you more open-minded, kind, and compassionate, congratulations, it is likely true love. But if a relationship makes you narrow-minded, suspicious, and resentful, if it makes you feel that the entire world has wronged you except for this one person, you should be alert. This is probably what from called selfishness for two. Having discussed romantic love, let us now turn to the third and most misunderstood form of love, self-love. Since childhood, we have been taught to be selfless and dedicate ourselves to public service, while loving oneself is often equated with selfishness. But From tells us here that self-love and selfishness are not just different, they are complete opposites. First, let us clarify what selfishness is. Does a selfish person truly love themselves?
No, Frau Marges.
A selfish person is precisely someone who does not love themselves enough. The reason for their selfishness lies in their profound inner emptiness and lack of security. They frantically seek to grab something from the external world to fill themselves, like a ravenous spirit. While they seem to act in their own interest, they are actually unable to experience the joy of giving, nor can they truly care for or respect their own inner life. Deep down, they hold a dismissive and exploitative attitude toward themselves. So what is true self-love? True self-love means applying the four elements of love we discussed earlier: care, responsibility, respect, and understanding to ourselves without compromise. Caring for our physical and mental health, taking responsibility for our life choices, respecting our uniqueness as an independent individual and not distorting ourselves to please others, deeply understanding our emotions, desires, and fears, and facing ourselves with honesty. There is a saying in the Bible, "Love your neighbor as yourself." From believes the key to this statement lies in the last two words, as yourself. It means that your ability to love others is based on and measured by your ability to love yourself. How can someone truly love and respect others if they cannot even love or respect themselves? What they give to others is likely nothing more than control, dependence, or an investment made to gain something in return. A person who does not love themselves is like an empty cup. They have nothing to share with others. Therefore, remember From's transformative conclusion. Selfishness and self-love are mutually exclusive. Self-love is the foundation of loving others. A person capable of creative love will undoubtedly love themselves too. Beyond these three forms of love, From also mentions two others we touched on earlier: maternal love and divine love. Maternal love is unconditional love for a vulnerable life. Its greatness lies in its ultimate goal, to help the child grow and to bear the pain of separating from them. As for divine love, we can understand it as a higher form of love. For those of us without religious beliefs, it can be seen as love for truth, justice, and the highest values in our lives. A profound spiritual pursuit to overcome ultimate loneliness and reconnect with all things in the universe. Now, let us consider these 5 forms of love together. What do you notice? They are not isolated. This is the complete spectrum of love. It starts within ourselves, extends to our partners, then to all humanity, and finally reaches the peak of spirituality. Love is not a function we only activate in specific relationships. It is an attitude that permeates our entire lives, a way of engaging with the world. Now that we understand the rich and profound nature of the complete path of love, a new question arises. Why, in our real lives today, is the love we see and experience often so poor and fragile? This is what we will explore in the next section. The illnesses of love. Why is true love so rare in modern society? In the previous section, we explored the spectrum of love together and saw what an ideal, complete form of love should look like. It begins with self-love, extends to brotherly love, and ultimately connects us to the entire world through deep union with another person. Yet upon hearing this, a great doubt, even a sigh, may arise in each of our hearts. If true love is like this, why is it that when we look around us, even when we examine our own intimate relationships, we see nothing but struggle, pain, indifference, and disappointment. Why is there such a vast gap between the real world we live in and the ideal kingdom of love described by From? This is the core question we will address in this section. Here, From will temporarily shift from a tender psychologist to a calm, even somewhat harsh social diagnostician. He will tell us that the rarity of true love in modern society is not merely a personal issue. It is because the era and society we live in are themselves afflicted with an illness that prevents us from loving. To understand the root of this illness, we must first recognize the underlying logic of the capitalist society we inhabit. From points out sharply that the cornerstone of this society is the market, a place where everything, whether tangible goods, intangible services, or even human labor, can be valued and exchanged. This market principle, like an omnipresent virus, has quietly infected every corner of our lives, including love. As a result, what From calls the marketing character has become the common personality of modern people. Each of us, consciously or unconsciously, turns ourselves into a commodity waiting to be sold. We strive to enhance our value. A better education, a higher position, a fitter body, more witty conversation. All of this is less about self-actualization and more about packaging ourselves into a more attractive personality package, so that we can secure the best possible trading partner in the marriage and dating market. Our dates feel like business negotiations. We showcase our strengths, hide our flaws, and simultaneously evaluate the other person's assets and liabilities. We silently calculate in our minds, is he worthy of me? Will being with him benefit my future development? You see, under this logic, the deepest relationship between people becomes a cold transaction based on the principle of fair exchange, and our personalities become like automatic machines that constantly adjust to meet market demands. In such a society where everyone is a commodity, true love naturally becomes a luxury. For the qualities required by love, selfless giving, care without expecting anything in return, respect for another person's uniqueness, are precisely contrary to the logic of the market. As a result, various forms of false love, or illnesses of love, have become prevalent, even regarded by us as normal and inevitable. From identifies two of the most normal and widespread forms of false love. The first is the team-style marriage. This is the most admired ideal relationship model of our time. Open any relationship guide, and you will find advice like this. Husbands and wives should be each other's best friends and friction-free partners. A husband should be considerate of his wife and praise her new clothes or cooking. A wife should understand her husband and listen patiently when he complains about work. The two are like the best partners in a well-run company, with clear division of labor, tacit cooperation, and high efficiency. Does this sound problematic? It is deeply problematic. From argues that the essence of such a relationship is two well-lubricated machines operating smoothly together, but their gears never truly engage. The two people may treat each other with courtesy for a lifetime, but they may also never understand each other, never reaching the depths of each other's hearts. What they form is merely a two-person alliance to resist the external world and inner loneliness. This so-called love is essentially the selfishness for two we mentioned earlier. It is a shelter, not a haven for mutual growth and shared effort. The second form is treating sexual satisfaction as the entirety of love. From observed that in modern society, people are generally trapped in a great misunderstanding, believing that love is a product of sexual satisfaction. They think that if a relationship has problems, it is simply because the intimate life is not harmonious, and that as long as they master enough techniques to satisfy each other physically, love will naturally emerge. From completely overturns this view. He argues that the truth is the opposite. Sexual happiness is a result of love, not its cause. When true love exists between two people, the kind filled with tenderness, care, respect, and understanding, their physical union becomes an experience of profound spiritual connection. But without a foundation of love, even the most advanced techniques can only bring temporary physical pleasure. Sexual attraction can create an illusion of union in an instant, but when the illusion fades, all that remains is deeper strangeness and alienation. The root cause of various sexual problems often lies in deep-seated fear or hatred of the opposite sex, and the resulting loss of the ability to love. If the two forms mentioned above are normal illnesses of love that our society tolerates, then the several types of neurotic love described from next allow us to see unhealthy traces in ourselves and those around us more clearly. Take idolized love, for example. A person with a weak inner self and a fragile sense of identity easily deifies the person they love. They project all their own strength, wisdom, and shining qualities onto the other person, worshiping them as the embodiment of truth, goodness, and beauty. In this process, they feel themselves becoming smaller and smaller, while the other person becomes more and more perfect. Instead of finding themselves in love, they completely lose themselves in the other person. This kind of love often begins with great intensity and passion, seeming earth-shattering, but it is doomed to disillusionment. For no ordinary person can bear the godlike fantasies of another. When the bubble of fantasy bursts, all that remains is endless disappointment and resentment. Take sentimental love as another example. Its defining feature is that it exists only in imagination, never in reality. The most typical case is people obsessed with romance movies, romance novels, and love songs. They weep profusely in front of screens for others' love stories, yet in real life, they are indifferent to their own partner's joys and sorrows. For them, others' love becomes the only way to experience love itself, a form of spiritual opium used to numb the emptiness of their own real relationships. There is also a form where love is shifted to the past or the future. They either endlessly reminisce about the sweet moments of past relationships or constantly fantasize about the arrival of a right person in the future. Yet they are utterly unable to face and nurture the real, flawed relationship they have in the present moment. Another type is love based on projection. This pattern is also very common. Instead of confronting and solving our own problems, we project them onto our partners like slides on a screen, then confidently criticize and try to reform them. For instance, someone with a controlling inner self will constantly accuse their partner of being too authoritarian. Someone who lacks their own opinions will complain that their partner is too weak. Thus, the relationship becomes an endless cycle of blame shifting and reform projects. Everyone sees themselves as an innocent victim, believing the other person is holding them back. In such relationships, both parties are forever avoiding their own issues, making any form of growth impossible. Now, if we look at all these illnesses of love together, from market-driven transactions and team-style marriages to various neurotic forms of false love, we will realize that the rarity of true love in our era is by no means merely a matter of bad luck or personal incompetence. Behind it lies a profound social root. In a culture that reduces humans to commodities and prioritizes success above all else, the ability to love, something that demands we set aside utilitarianism and give and care sincerely, naturally withers, even becomes distorted. Recognizing this may make us feel somewhat pessimistic, but Fromm's goal is by no means to make us despair. On the contrary, only by clearly diagnosing the cause can we prescribe the right treatment. Given such an environment, what can we, as ordinary individuals, do? Is it still possible for us to nurture the flowers of love in this barren soil through our own efforts? The answer is yes. This is what we will explore in our final and most important section. The practice of love. How exactly can we practice to truly master this art? By this point, you may be feeling a mix of emotions, perhaps a moment of realization, a touch of heaviness, or even a hint of anxiety. You might think, goodness, if true love is this complex, this profound, and has such high demands, will I ever be able to learn it in my lifetime? Where on earth do I start? This is the question we will answer in this final section. We will move from lofty theories back to the specific day-to-day practices of each of our lives, focusing on the practice of love. Before we begin, a word of caution is necessary. If you are hoping for a love secret manual, a set of 3 steps or 5 methods that will immediately make you invincible in romance, you may be disappointed. In the final part of his book, Fromm makes it clear from the start, there are no quick fix guides for the art of love. Learning to love is more like a lifelong practice. It is not about what you do, but about striving to become a certain kind of person. It demands not temporary skills, but a stable state of character. So, to achieve this state, what foundational practices do we need? From points out several fundamental paths, starting with the three indispensable pillars of all art: discipline, concentration, and patience. The first is discipline. At the mention of discipline, we may think of the strict, inhumane demands of the military, but Fromm's concept of discipline is the opposite. It is not an externally imposed constraint, but an expression of your inner will, a habit you choose to adopt to bring more order and strength to your life. In an era where indulgence and laziness are glorified as effortlessness, talking about discipline may seem out of place. We are accustomed to completely checking out after 8 hours of work, doing whatever we please. But Fromm argues that without discipline, life becomes fragmented and directionless. The practice of love requires us to gently yet firmly integrate discipline into every corner of our lives. For example, waking up at a fixed time each day, not for work clocking in for work, but to take responsibility for our own lives. Setting aside 20 minutes each day to sit quietly, no phone in hand, just feeling our breath. Eating moderately and exercising regularly. None of this is about living like an ascetic. On the contrary, when discipline shifts from "I have to do this" to "I choose to do this," it becomes a source of joy. You will discover that a disciplined life actually brings you greater freedom and stronger vitality. The second pillar is concentration. This may be the hardest for modern people, for our entire culture is a massive distraction machine. We are used to watching videos while eating, replying to messages while listening to music, and scrolling through our phones while talking to others. We seem to do many things, but in reality, we are never truly present for any of them. Yet, the ability to love precisely requires a high degree of concentration. When you are with your partner, are you truly listening to them? Or are you mentally rehearsing what you will say next? Are you truly savoring the moment of being with them? Or are you worrying about tomorrow's work? Fromm says that the first and most important step in learning to concentrate is learning to be alone. Not the pseudo-solitude of scrolling through your phone, but genuine solitude where you do nothing. No reading, no listening to music, no smoking, no drinking, just sitting quietly with yourself. Try it, and you will find it extremely difficult. You will fidget, and thoughts will race through your mind like wild horses. But only when you can calmly embrace the peace of this solitude will you truly gain the ability to control your attention. And only then can you give your full, undistracted attention to the person you love. The third pillar is patience. Our era chases speed in everything. Fast food, short videos, instant messaging. We have been conditioned by the entire industrial system to have no patience, always wanting results in the shortest time possible. But in the world of art, quick success is always the enemy of mastery. Fromm asks us to observe a child learning to walk. They will fall once, twice, countless times, but do they cry? Do they give up? No. They stand up again and again to try until they can walk steadily. Children possess a great patience that we adults have long lost. The practice of love requires this same learning to walk patience. You cannot read this book today and become a god of love tomorrow. You will make mistakes, take steps backward, and feel discouraged when you see no immediate results. But you must believe the growth of character is like the growth of a plant, a slow, organic process. You cannot yank it to make it grow faster. You can only water and fertilize it day after day, then wait patiently for it to bloom. Now that we have discussed these three universal foundational practices, let us turn to two exclusive, more core principles required for practicing the art of love. The first and most important principle is overcoming narcissism. Here, narcissism is not the trivial kind we associate with posting selfies on social media. Fromm's definition refers to a more fundamental state of personality. A narcissistic person's entire world revolves around me. Their starting point for viewing all people and things is always what's in it for me, or will this hurt me? The external world is not an objective, real existence for them, but merely a projection of their inner desires and fears. Yet the ability to love precisely requires the opposite qualities of narcissism: objectivity and reason. Objectivity is the ability to see a person as an independent being, separate from yourself, to perceive their true nature, not the distorted image shaped by your expectations, fears, or personal interests. To achieve this, humility is needed. You must sincerely acknowledge that you are not the center of the universe, and your feelings are not the only standard. Thus, the practice of love is largely a lifelong journey of struggling with the narcissistic child within you. It requires constant awareness, asking yourself, am I seeing the truth of the matter, or just what I want to see? Am I interacting with the real person in front of me, or the him I have imagined? Only when you can see yourself and the world more objectively will you truly have the prerequisite to love. The second core principle is having faith. Faith is another easily misunderstood term. It does not refer to blind, irrational superstition. Fromm is talking about rational faith, a belief firmly rooted in your own experiences, your own thinking, and your creative actions. What kind of faith do you need in love? First, you need the faith to believe in yourself. You must believe that the core of your personality is stable and reliable. You must believe that you have the ability to love, and that your love has the power to awaken love in others. Only by believing in yourself can you make commitments, because you know that the you of the future will still be the same as the you today, and will still uphold this decision to love. Second, you need the faith to believe in others. This does not mean naively thinking that others will never make mistakes or let you down. Instead, it means believing that beneath all their flaws and errors, deep in the core of their personality, there lies the potential to do good and become better. You must believe in their capacity for growth. Education is built on this kind of faith. You only nurture a seed because you believe it can grow into a tall tree. And having faith necessarily requires one final thing: courage. You need the courage to bear the risk of being rejected or hurt. You need the courage to face disappointment and pain, yet still choose to persist. A person who values safety and comfort above all else can never truly love, because love, by its very nature, is an adventure where you give yourself completely and without reservation. Well, my friends, our in-depth exploration of the art of loving comes to an end here. From start to finish, we have been repeating one core message. Love is not a fleeting, exhilarating feeling we stumble upon by chance. It is an art that requires a lifetime of learning, practice, and dedication. This path is destined to be difficult and lonely. There are no shortcuts and no final destination. But Fromm also offers us great hope. He says, the pursuit of love is a justified faith because it is rooted in the very essence of each of us. It is the deepest need of our hearts. So stop waiting for the perfect right person to appear, and stop complaining about this cold era. True practice begins with ourselves, begins in this very moment, with practicing discipline, cultivating concentration, maintaining patience, overcoming our narcissism, and summoning our faith and courage. This is not just for the sake of having a happy, intimate relationship. It is to answer the most fundamental question of our lives, and to become a more complete, braver, and more vital person in this short and lonely existence. This is perhaps the ultimate essence of the art of loving.